This 6-square-kilometer suburb is located southwest of the Pretoria CBD. It is a fully integrated part of the City of Tshwane Metropolitan Municipality, with its own distinct identity, and it's a great example of South Africa's vibrant and diverse cultural landscape. Believe it or not, the hills to the west of what is now Laudium have a history that long predates the suburb. Older aerial photographs show the remains of circular-type dwellings, evidence of the area's earliest inhabitants. But the modern town was founded under very different circumstances. South Africa's Group Areas Act was put into action. The mixed race and Indian communities who lived in Marabastad and central Pretoria were forcibly relocated. In 1961, the government carved out a new piece of land to house them, and they called it Laudium. It was originally going to be called Claudius, named after a former mayor of Pretoria, Claudius Marais de Vries, who owned the farm Moorplats. But the name Laudium ultimately stuck. The eastern part of the area was renamed Claudius, but today, the name Laudium is used for the entire community. A railway line that is the dividing line in the suburb remains clearly visible. The tracks used to connect the Dolomite Quarry near Erasmere with East Coast Pretoria works, but are now long out of use. The railway right-of-way still cuts the suburb in two and limits driving access between the old and new parts. Laudium was the stage for significant resistance during the 1980s. The suburb gained notoriety when, in 1981, members of MK, the armed wing of the ANC, launched a rocket attack on the Voortrekkerhoek military base from this area. The homes of local politicians who supported the apartheid state were also bombed in the 1980s. So you're driving through a place that saw its fair share of struggle-era activity. After the fall of apartheid, Laudium was first incorporated into the newly formed Centurion Municipality, and then in 2000, it and the rest of Centurion was absorbed into the massive City of Tshwane Metropolitan Municipality. That's why its address is Laudium, Tshwane. The main road that cuts through the heart of this suburb is the R55. It's also called Quagga Road. This dual carriageway serves as the unofficial, and very real, dividing line between the suburb of Claudius and the area most people think of as Laudium. If you're driving the R55 from the south, coming from the N14, the first thing you'll see is an impressive sight: large, luxurious homes and mansions. This road actually provides a clear view of what many describe as the wealthy part of the township. These houses were built by a successful generation of Indian South Africans who found their freedom and fortune here. As you'll notice, the architecture begins to change. It's time to talk about the area's most iconic landmark, the Juma Mosque. It's located on Jewel Street. The oldest mosque is the PMT Jama Masjid. Built in 1967, it is not just a place of worship, it's the soul of the local Muslim community. The building itself is a beautiful piece of work, with a stunning white facade that stands out against the suburban backdrop. For a long time, the majority of residents here were Muslim shopkeepers and traders, many of whom were of Gujarati, Memon, or Surati descent. Until very recently, most of the businesses here were 100% halal certified. But Laudium's religious landscape isn't just about the mosques. You will also see ornate Hindu temples, such as the Sri Pretoria Hindu Seva Samaj, one of the oldest in the area, as well as a significant number of Christian churches. This is a truism about South Africa's suburbs. They are a mix of everything, but this is one of the few areas in Tshwane, not traditionally designated a township, where you have such a high concentration of mosques and temples standing side by side. The western part of the suburb is home to an area called Whiteblocks. This was originally built by the government as the low-cost housing area of the township. Even the Laudium police station is located here, housed in a converted residential unit. This name Whiteblocks came from their original paint color. These are single and multi-family dwelling units. They represent a much more humble reality than the mansions overlooking the R55, a small pocket of economic struggle in what is otherwise a fairly prosperous area. This suburb has a well-established educational infrastructure. There are several government schools, like Laudium Secondary School, Laudium High, Hillside Primary, and Andrew Anthony Primary. Since 1994, the demographic in these schools has shifted. They are still staffed by qualified teachers, but many local students now attend private religious schools or former Model C schools elsewhere in the city, while black learners from neighboring townships now commute to these government schools. Laudium is one of the few suburbs that even has its own printed newspaper, the Laudium Sun, a legacy of its unique historical status as a center of community life. Surrounded by hills that separate us from the rest of the city. To the north, across the Quagga Hill, lies Atteridgeville, but you cannot drive directly there by tar road. To get to Atteridgeville, you have to go all the way back to the R55. To the south, you have the suburbs of Erasmere and Christoburg, which historically were designated for white residents. Today, those suburbs have a significant Indian population, but many of the residents maintain their businesses and community ties here in Laudium. The future of this dynamic suburb is still unfolding. However, an ever-present threat lurks under the ground here: sinkholes. The dolomitic rock under certain parts of the suburb can be unstable, and historic water leaks have increased the risk of sinkholes appearing without warning. Laudium has a fascinating history that extends back to the earliest human settlements, a unique geography, and a religiously diverse community. It's a 20-minute drive from the Pretoria CBD, but in many ways, it feels like a world of its own. From its forced establishment during apartheid, to its role in the liberation struggle and its growth into a multicultural hub, Laudium is a crucial part of Pretoria's story. If you like discovering these hidden histories, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share your own memories of Laudium in the comments below, I'd love to hear them.